Okay, I'd like to welcome Jody Euloth of Mesh Media today with us. Thank you, Jody, for joining us on the East Coast Fashion Summit. Welcome.
Thanks, Cindy. It's my pleasure. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Let's start because I know a little about you, but the folks watching might need to get a little background. So tell us a little about Jody, where you started, where you grew up, and how you got into this crazy life of marketing and sales and media.
Sure. So I grew up in a small town outside of Truro, Nova Scotia. Spent my childhood there, wonderful childhood. Went to university at Dal in Halifax. And then when I graduated, I took off, lived a bunch of different places, Vancouver, all kinds of different places, and came back and started out in, first off, I started out as a teacher. I did my teaching degree, and I taught a couple years teaching in grade 8. Fresh out of high school, fresh out of school. And then 2 years of that, I was like, there's no way I'm being a teacher for the rest of my life. And went back to school for business and took stuff towards my MBA for marketing. And then 15 years in sales, working for some of the largest corporate national brands, global brands out there, and then spent some time in the advertising world for one of Atlantic Canada's largest publishing houses. And that was really my first introduction into marketing and advertising, and that's really what fueled my love for the industry.
Yeah.
And then here we are today. I launched Mesh Media a few years ago, and here we are.
That's what I was going to say. And then you went into being your bad boss and took over Media Life. So we met at Atlantic Fashion Week, and you actually encouraged us to start this brand.
I remember.
We will never forget that. So thank you. But Jody, you're kind to everyone you meet. I know this about you. What led you to choose the path of sales and marketing as your career? And when did you realize that you were on that right path and you were great at it?
Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
For me, it was, in hindsight, I was never the girl that knew what she wanted to be because I wanted to be so many things. I thought I wanted to be a teacher, and then I was like, no way. I admire all the teachers and what they're going through right now. And then I ended up saying yes to an opportunity that was a sales opportunity. And then from there, I just fell in love with sales. And I don't want to say that because you don't really love sales, but what I do love about it is connecting with the people like you and everyone who shares a common energy. That's what really fuels me, and that's what made me fall in love with sales. If you're good at it and you're good at connecting with people and you're selling something that you actually really love and believe in, which is half of the battle, you can do really well in it. And as a single mom, that was a really good option for me.
Yeah, making your own schedule and then just sharing the love because, like you said, you get involved with brands that you believe in. So you're not really selling. You're just being the cheerleader for that brand and making sure people know about them and that they come support them.
Absolutely. And I think, when it comes to the fashion industry, believing in the brand and what the mission of it and the values of that brand is so important. And then being, for example, a designer, and owning that, I've had the opportunity to work with so many designers when it comes to sales and marketing. And one thing I noticed is that, a lot of times they're timid or just not confident when it comes to selling themselves, and their creative, their beautiful, creativity with the world. And that's where I've been helpful in the industry, is helping them, find their path and share their talents with their world.
Yeah, I love that because a lot of artists are really shy to kind of toot their own horn. So I love that you're all about it and making sure you support those people that really can't find their own voice. You're that voice.
Yeah, and for me, it's equally fun for me because I'm not a designer. But growing up, I was an athlete my whole life. But and it was interesting because there was always, when we grew up, you either had to go into arts or you had to go into science. You were either, you loved music or you were an athlete. There was always, and I never really fit into those categories because I loved both. And so the beauty of being able to work in the fashion industry is that I'm so inspired by people like yourself who, are super creative. And so when I can collaborate on those projects, that's really what fuels me.
Oh, thanks, Jody. Uh,
Yeah.
where does all of your self-drive come from? Because, like you said, you are a single mom, you run your own company, you're nonstop action. So, where does all of this drive come from?
Hmm. I think, a lot of it was in the early years, it was desperation, and that's being really open and honest about being a single mom and having to provide for two young children. Um, so a lot of it came from that. There was no other options, you know. But now that I found, because in my career I've done jobs and sold things that I wasn't really passionate about. I was in the banking industry for a long time, thinking that I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. And then I was like, oh no, hell no, this is not for me. So I kind of learned by trial and error. But I think my self drive now comes from um, just really wanting to succeed and doing things that uh, fill me up and working on things that are really in alignment with me. And that's really what drives me.
Yeah, finding those other people's with those great values and those great messages that you just want to help share. Yeah, that's so important to be in the room with the people that light your heart up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where I get my energy, and that's where doing good for those partners, and doing good for other causes. And I just wanted to say before we started, Cindy, I wanted to say I admire all the work that you and Robbie and your team are doing outside of fashion and real life work in terms of your social justice initiatives and all that stuff. So I really, as a single mom with two biracial boys, thank you so much for that work. It's super important.
Jody, thank you. You're making me really emotional, but thank you.
No, I admire that. I mean, Cindy, we connected from day one. And the beauty of why we connected is because I cherish your energy, and you just continue to um, be really vocal about issues that are super important to me and super important to the world right now. And I admire that. So,
So they're very important to me, and I'll never understand why people can't just be kind. Like it's so overlooked, and it's just so cool, you know. So, thank.
absolutely.
Sorry.
No, that's great. No, I think this is real. I believe this is real and true and honest. And I think it's okay that that these issues affect us, and what we continue to do what we can to make the world a better place.
Amen, sister. I got you. I feel that all the way to the core.
Yeah.
Great. Now let's try. I'll try and continue. Let's move on to COVID, which is something that has affected everyone globally. How has it affected you and your business and kind of your life right now?
Well, it certainly affected, as an entrepreneur, it certainly affected mesh media. Mesh media is was a large part of our business was event. So
Yeah.
we did partnerships. So we did sponsorships for a lot of different events that couldn't happen.
Mhm.
And a lot of our revenue that came in from the events that were canceled, we lost that. And it was really difficult. So, like everyone else, I'm taking this time I was really quiet for a long time, um, and really took the time to figure out what are the things I want to work on, what's important to me, and what's important to Mesh Media in the future. So we've shifted focus, to doing things that are, increasing coaching, which was one part of the business that we did. So we focused on increasing that, and then looking at exploring other options for down the road, which is really exciting.
That's exciting. Yeah. It really was, kind of a tragedy that turned into an opportunity to reevaluate who you are and who you want to be moving forward. So I found a lot of people took that time to see, like, where am I? Why am I? And what do I want to become moving forward? So I love that answer. I think that's very genuine and very real. So thank
Thanks.
you. And how would someone with your extensive knowledge in this industry explain the importance of sales and marketing to the fashion and especially like lifestyle brands?
Well, I think, if I could make a distinction, there's certainly a difference between sales and there's a different difference between marketing. Um, when I started working in advertising, I would sell the marketing campaigns, but then also work with the brand to develop the campaign. So that's really what fueled me. But I think it's so important now after COVID. I mean, everybody's in the same boat. If you're a lifestyle brand or a fashion brand, you really need to be online, pushing e-com and growing that way. And I think one of the ways you could do that is looking at some collaborations and partnerships that don't necessarily have to be in person, but aligning your brand with someone else's can often be very strong and powerful, and increase sales and your brand awareness at the same time.
Yeah, amplifying each other, and yeah, that's such a share each other's markets, that kind of thing. It's a great time to support one another.
Absolutely.
What would you say is your greatest source of inspiration when you're trying to come up with these great campaigns for these brands and stuff? Like, where does your mind go, and what's kind of the normal trail, I guess, you follow to make sure you're getting the most of it for each individual brand?
For me, it's really listening to, for me and in sales, the number one thing that you have to do is listen. So you have to be really clear on what it is that the brand or your client really want to accomplish. And then when we have to come up with the plan, drawing inspiration, I draw inspiration from a few different things. One is the people that I'm surrounded by inspire me all the time. So whether it's through our conversations or interactions, I gain so much knowledge from the people that are in my network. Um, and who openly share ideas. And that's what, then we go into a big brainstorm. And that's where one source of inspiration. And then the second part for me is going outside in nature, and that's just really honest. I value being outside in the grass and being really calm and quiet. And I find those are the times where ideas come my way best.
Yeah, kind of when you slow down and turn it off, it like floods in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that wasn't always the way. I can remember in my earlier entrepreneurship years. I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold, Cindy. You know this, and so I don't think my brain's working as well as it should. in my earlier days, I used to stress myself out so much to come up with these ideas and, what is the sales plan? And sales are already stressful because, as much as you sell, there's always more to sell, or it's never enough. Um, and now just realizing that it's a practice to really take the time to be quiet, and that it will come, and listen to your intuition. I think that's been a huge source of learning for me and a huge source of inspiration.
Yeah, and you touched on listening, and that is so underrated because if you're not paying attention to what the client wants, you're never going to give it to them. So I hope everybody's listening to you and they need to start listening to their customers and their clients.
Absolutely. And there was actually even to take it one step further, there was a MediaCom just released a research that they had done on the Black Lives Matter movement. And one of the things that they talked about was how important it was going to be for the purchasing power down the road of visible minorities, how powerful it is now, and how powerful it is going to be in 10 years to come. So for brands who aren't aware of what's going on in the world, they're going to really lose out in that consumer, and you really have to shift your brand to listen to what's going on and what the consumers want. And the consumers want to work with and buy from brands that are socially aware.
Yeah. Socially aware, inclusive, represent everyone and not just the same old, same old. We're over that, Jody. We're over that.
I think we got a long way to go, but we're getting there.
Getting there.
We're getting there.
I think people don't understand how much hustle it takes to be an entrepreneur. So maybe talk to people a little bit about some of your strategies of getting a new client and like how you go about finding your clients.
Well, when I started Mesh, a lot of the clients came to me organically, and luckily. So that worked for the first year. And then, there was a point where that kind of dies out, and you have to really sit down as an entrepreneur and be like, okay, who do we go after next? And that really, to keep that revenue generation of your business going as an entrepreneur, you have to be really creative in terms of the clients that you have a list of clients that you want to work with. You have to pitch them. And how do you pitch them? You pitch them by the value that they're gonna receive. It's not always what you have to offer, like, here's my brand, it is so beautiful, this is why you want to work with me, which is a mistake that some people make. It's really about finding the clients that you want to work with because you think you can offer them something, and proving that you can offer them some value, and then hoping that they say yes to work with you.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that people hate rejection. So they hate sales. A lot of people hate sales because it does require you taking a lot of rejection. You're going to get a lot of no's. But for me, I think it's just continuing to put your ideas out there, continue to reach out to the people that you want to work with. If they say no, they might say no now, but it might be a yes a year from now. So keeping the door open for that relationship, that's been my strategy.
Yeah, that's smart. Don't walk away angry because they said no. It's a no right now, but later that could be a big yes. You just don't know.
You just don't know. Yeah. And a lot of people will, from my sales coaching clients, a lot of people will get frustrated when they see a no or hear a no. And then that'll be it, but they don't know that, down the road, I've had clients that have said no to me and then come back and said, Jody, now's the right time.
Right. See, that's that relationship building. that's so important and key. Those relationships, especially in a smaller place like this, you can't you can't burn those bridges. You need to keep those bridges nice and strong.
Absolutely.
um, would you mind sharing something about a moment that stands out to you that helped you feel that you were on the right path and that you knew this, yes, I'm here, this is where I'm meant to be, and I'm finally where I'm excelling?
I would say, there was definitely a few moments where I felt like this feels really good and fun. And one was, I have to give a shout out to my partner, um, Angela Capagnoni. She approached me years ago to work on Atlantic Fashion Week. And because she was looking for someone to do sponsorship. And um, when she came to me, we sat down, chatted, and then I took on the position. And there was moments of working on that project that were so near and dear to my heart because it gave designers a platform to be seen and to showcase their talents with the world. And that it was those moments that made me, interacting with designers like you, Cindy, that made me feel like this is why I do this. This is what makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So I think that was one. And then I think the next one would be, I had the opportunity to work on a project that it was with the University of Toronto. And my role was to raise corporate sponsorship for or sell corporate tables for an engagement event where we brought in the Raptors head coach, Nick Nurse. And it was a corporate breakfast. Some of the biggest names in the corporate industry were there, MLSE, and Nick came in and did a talk for everybody. And that was another pivotal moment where I was like, this is what I love. Like the fact that I got to be working in sports, working with the Raptors head coach after they won the championship, that was a moment where like, I want to keep digging in this area. So that was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. And yeah, let's go Raptors.
Go Raptors.
Raptors fans everywhere. Yeah, because sports was your first love, right? So that's a perfect marriage of these two worlds. Like that's so cool, Jody.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, super fun.
What do you think are the top skills that you think are necessary to be successful in one, sales, and two, marketing? Because they're so different.
Yeah. I think for sales, there's a few things like we had touched on listening,
Yeah.
but I think mindset has been such a huge thing for people with, um, with a lot of the coaching clients that I've had the pleasure to work with. It all came down to fear for them. So fear of putting themselves out there, fear of rejection, fear of not pitching it properly. And that just all starts with the head.
Yeah.
And, so I think doing some inner work on your mindset when it comes to sales and being prepared every time. It's a lot of self-talk, getting yourself prepared to pitch, getting yourself prepared to sell, and then letting go of the outcome. And if the outcome isn't what it is, it isn't what it is. I would say that's one of the most important things with sales. And then I think with marketing, is, we touched on it earlier, would be being creative and not being afraid to step outside the box.
Yeah.
So try things that, that not everybody is doing. Go against the grain a little bit. Have a voice that makes you stand out on issues that are important to you. I think that's so important with marketing right now, is listening to what your true values are and being creative and free to express those.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I love that advice. I hope people are soaking this up, Jody. This is awesome. Like, thank you. This is so good. How do you stay up to date regarding the latest techniques and training and, sales and marketing, especially social media stuff is just moving so fast. Like, how do you keep up to date with this stuff?
I try. I don't know if I do such a good job. I have a 11-year-old who's a famous YouTuber in our house, just in our house, and he's also a famous TikToker. So my children keep me up to date with what the youth are doing, and that's allowed me to have the pulse of what's coming up, and so I think that's where I find I'm staying up to date, and not that I am doing a good job myself of keeping up to date with it, because like you said, it does move so fast. So I think just picking and choosing what you're going to try and stay up to date with. There's just so much, you can't keep up with all of it.
Yeah, kind of pick your thing you're most concerned with and follow that line. Don't get lost in all the other bright, shiny things. And I think it's so cute. You got a little face. Those little cuties keep us so on our toes.
I know, absolutely. Yeah, they're letting me know what's up.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to tell us we're not cool.
Oh no, I'm told that multiple times.
Me too. Um, can you say something kind of interesting or fun about your background that maybe people wouldn't know about you, or that they would be like surprised to hear?
Thought about this. I was like, what do I really divulge here?
Keep some secrets.
Keep lots. I think if I was going to share any that people might not know, is I'll share two.
Okay.
I'll share that my first love out of everything, people would think it would be basketball, but I was a highly competitive gymnast for the first 9 years of my life. And that's what fueled my discipline. I look at the mental training that we had, and I was in the gym 6 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day. I loved it. I lived for that sport. And I really attribute the things that I learned in that sport, and I to my success later down the road in business. And then the second thing I'll share is that people probably don't know. I don't know if this is exciting or boring, but I was in my early 20s when I finished my schooling. I jumped on a cruise ship, and I was a craps pit boss for high stakes table games on the cruise ships for 4 years.
Okay, that's cool. That's so fun. Pit boss.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
My new nickname for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
I'll take it.
What do you see becoming huge for the future of sales in the next 5 to 10 years? Because I see a big shift on way more online and meetings like this, and I don't see that going away. So what do you see? Do you kind of see some of the same things coming back, or do you think we're here on this path?
I think we're here on this path. I mean, it's the same thing, Cindy. I think, getting up to speed as much as you can on digital and e-com and selling brands that way, that's going to be the way of the future. I got really used to ordering online during COVID. And I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. And then, another thing that we touched on is for the brands and marketing is to really align with social issues and being aware of what's going on in the world. And I think it's so important and critical for brands to recognize that and have a voice on that, and be as active as you can in, eliminating the injustices that are going on. And I think that's the wave of the future. And I think it's a necessity.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that's super important. And if you don't pick a side, we already know what side you're on.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Yeah.
people read between the lines when you don't tell them the truth.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was so interesting. I saw so many brands not have any opinion because it didn't flow with the, their Instagram look or however it went down. But, um, and I can still do more myself. I still have a huge responsibility myself. So, I'm in it just with as everybody else. But I think, for the next 5 to 10 years, that's something that we all have to take wholeheartedly and seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there an area of sales and marketing that you haven't worked in yet that maybe you would think you might want to try someday?
I don't know. I was like, my old self would be like, yes, there's so much I want to try. And, I think the world of esports is super cool right now. It's super popular. So maybe dabbling in that would be interesting. But for me, really focusing on my niche, which is both sports and fashion and staying in those lanes. That's where it took me a long time to get here, through trial and error, that I'm happy where I'm at right now. I think we'll always look to try new things down the road and explore. But I don't think there's another field that I'm dying to jump in. I just want to take it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, exactly. Just up the ante of what's already happening. Because
Yeah,
it's fashion and sports. They go so close together. It's a perfect marriage.
I love it. I'm super happy that I can work in both. So,
Cool. What would you say to people that want to start contributing to a career in marketing, but they're just not sure where they should start?
hmm. I would say that you'd have to do some research depending on the avenue that you want to take. There's so many different niches. There's people that focus solely on social media. There's people that, do print advertising. There's certainly areas of marketing that people niche down in. But I would say don't don't block yourself out from trying any of it. Try it all. If the door opens and there's an opportunity, and it might not be the ideal opportunity that's you're looking for, maybe it's an entry level position, maybe it's not your ideal, job at this point, but don't say no to those opportunities, because you're going to have to build. um, Experience is huge, as we move down the road, and a lot of the skills that you're going to learn are going to be transferable. So the more you can learn, I think the better it is. So my advice for someone wanting to start into marketing is find an open door and don't be afraid to enter it.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's so great. Say yes, like just try it all. Yeah,
Yes, and you'll learn, if it's for you or if it's not for you. But give it a chance.
right. Either way, you're learning. Either way.
Either way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great advice. We all know this industry and sales in particular is very demanding. So, what kind of things do you do to kind of help yourself de stress or prevent yourself from getting overstressed?
Well, I learned this
Mhm.
through being thrown in the fire of major stress.
Yeah.
I look back in my early entrepreneurship, and I've been an entrepreneur for, 4 years solely as an entrepreneur. Um, I worked so hard in the early years learning as many systems as I could, like what's going to really work. I had a coach that taught me, do all this stuff, and anyways, I think for me, I felt like I was on a hamster wheel for so long that I couldn't get out of it. And the revenue wasn't enough. I was I had so much work. I really wasn't doing a good job on any of it. I just felt like I was continually stressed 24 hours a day, and that fueled more stress and more stress. And I think there was a point in my life where I looked at myself in the mirror, and it was the winter, and my face was inflamed. I was feeling it in my body, and I was like, Jody, you need to learn how to manage this stress, or it's going to be the end of you. And I think that's really when I dove into doing some real inner work. I started learning about meditation. I meditate every day now. I've seen some real positive results with that. I find it just brings me to a place of peace. I do yoga every morning because I can't play basketball like I used to, and my ankles don't want to. But so I make sure that I do get some activity in. But meditation and yoga have served me really well, and then continually doing self-development on how I can control my mind.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
powerful. That's powerful stuff. Like
Yeah.
get body centered, clear your mind, remember who you are. Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful.
I'll just take a pause. Yeah.
Great advice, especially for people starting out as entrepreneurs. They don't realize how big that hamster wheel gets. And, if they can take the time now to understand themselves, even this much, it will go so far. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Keep in come with those nuggets, Jody.
Cindy, thanks.
What is a piece of advice that you would give a new sales or marketing person that they should absolutely avoid? Like, do not do this in this industry.
So much. I think don't give off negative energy.
Good
You
one.
know, for me, with sales, you come across so many people, and you have to be able to find a way to connect with them on some type of level. People will want to buy from people that they trust, people that they like to do business with. So I think do not give off negative energy, because people can feel that. Yeah, I think that would be number one. Just being really mindful of the energy that you're giving off.
Yeah, I like that. That's important because if I don't like you, I'm not doing any business with you whatsoever. Like, period.
Not at all, and it's not even about um it's not, a lot of people, you're not putting on a show. You want to be yourself, but you want to be mindful of not giving off even if you're having a bad day, your kids are fighting, or you just got in a fight with your man, or whatever it is, being able to not put that and project that onto the next person is super important. So I think starting out, just be really mindful of the energy that you're giving off if you're trying to sell people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, on the flip side of that, what is one thing you would suggest that they start doing immediately that is crucial to being good at either sales or marketing?
Again, like so many things come to mind, Cindy, but I would say really work on your mindset and nurture your mindset to set yourself up that and give yourself, and it's a real practice to give yourself the pep talk every day that what you have to offer is of value, and you have a solution to offer people. And if they're not going to buy from you, you don't want them anyways. But I'd say immediately work on your mindset and being in a positive frame of mind, and that's going to take you huge places down the road in your career. um, and then if I could add one more thing on that, I think is just don't be afraid to try something. Like I think we said this before, don't be afraid to try something new, even though it might not be what you thought was meant for you in your head. Be open to say yes to things that you might not necessarily have thought this was the path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. because you never know where the stuff will take you. And the mindset thing I really like, because it's really easy to forget that what you're selling is valuable and people do need this. Like, you're helping people at the end of the day. So you got to get out of that idea that it's a problem what you're doing, or feel like you got to be smaller about it. No, get big, be proud, you know? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Um, is there a question that you always wished someone would have asked you so you could better showcase your expertise in this industry?
I couldn't think of anything about that.
Right.
And um, not necessarily. I think what I came up with, Cindy, was that um, I, hmm, that was a good question. No, there's really nothing that people haven't asked that I could showcase better. I think now what I would hope people would ask me is the things that what I'm passionate about, and what projects I want to work on, and I think for me the answer to that, going the answer on that one, is that working on projects that I've done a lot of partnerships and projects that I didn't align with, and I took them out of desperation because we needed revenue. But I didn't always do a good job on those, and I felt bad on those. So I think, the projects that I want to work on next are the ones that are with people that are in alignment with my missions and my values, and I really want to stay true to that. So there's your question and your answer, I think, all in one.
One tiny, beautiful. Okay, we're gonna go right to the scenario time. So you've lost everything except your knowledge. You have no friends. Nobody knows Jody. Mesh Media doesn't exist yet. What's the very first thing you do in this new place to start building that brand back?
The first thing that I'm going to do is listen to my intuition. You know,
Yeah.
I want to sit down and listen to my intuition. Growing up as a woman,
Yeah.
there was it, intuition is a real thing. And I think, there's a reason why your hair goes up on the back of your neck. There's physical signs that we get from our intuition. And there's inspiration that we get from our intuition if we just take the time to listen to it. And for so many years, I look back and I think I never listened to that little girl, or I never listened to that inner voice. So I think if with on a stranded island, everything gone, all my experience, and I had to start again, my thing would be to really sit down with Jody, my inner self, and listen to what my inner self is telling me.
Yes, that's amazing. I love that answer, because you're gonna be the only person that truly knows who you are, and you have to trust that. You just have to. Yeah. Wow, thank you. What's coming up next for Mesh Media, Jody? What's coming up next?
So we have lots of stuff on the go. I think right now we are certainly in a transition from getting away from events and looking to pivot. We are expanding our coaching platform. And then we are looking at, and this is a sneak peek, we are looking at launching our own sub brand, I would say, in the Q1 of 2021. So, pardon?
Amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's so those are the things, the projects that I'm working on. I think for me as a business, my goal is just continue to learn, educate, continue to do what I can around these important global issues of injustice, social injustice, and that is really important to me. So I want to make sure that Mesh Media aligns with people like yourself, Cindy, and other people and brands who are on the same mission to, just create a better world.
Amen to that, honey. I want to thank you so much. Thank you, Jody Euloth from Mesh Media, for being with us on the East Coast Fashion Summit today. I know everyone's going to get a lot of value out of this, Jody. That was fantastic. So thank you so much for doing this with us.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for everything you do, Cindy. And thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.